Everyone, welcome to the May meeting of the Waikiki Neighborhood Board. You may have noticed that our fire department just went out to respond to a emergency, so they won't be with us tonight. Chad is in Peru of all places. Lou is on WebEx tonight. And just got a phone call from Catherine. She's having a medical issue, so she won't be with us tonight. So the meeting is called to order with a quorum. The Honolulu Fire Department report. Okay, their written report had for fires, 2 structure, 1 bush, nuisance 1, cooking 3, activated alarms with no fire 12, medical emergencies 154, vehicle collisions 2 with pedestrians, 5 without pedestrians, no mountain rescues, no ocean rescues, and 1 hazardous material incident. Their fire safety tip for the month is wildland fires significantly threaten Hawaii's landscapes, wildlife, and communities. With dry conditions and everyday activities contributing to the increased risk, it is critical to take proactive measures to prevent and mitigate wildland fires. So they say lighten the load, clear and clean your areas of vegetation. When you have a barbecue, be sure you have water and a shovel to put it out. Watch out for sparks and learn more at these online resources. Honolulu Fire Department, fire.honolulu.gov. So I'm sorry they can't be here, but they had their real life mission happen. Next, we have the Honolulu Police Department. I believe we have Lieutenant Arita online. Lieutenant?
Good evening, everybody. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. Police Week is keeping us busy over here. But this month's stats for April, we had 5 robberies, 21 burglaries, 128 thefts, 18 car break-ins, 37 assaults, 2 sex crimes, 10 bicycle skateboards on sidewalks, 20 speeding citations, 1,717 parking citations, 9 loud mufflers, 68 park closure citations, and 6 park closure arrests. We had a total of 4,657 calls for service. So we did, well, first thing I want to touch on is the robberies. So we had 5 reported, but 1 was actually reported in Waikiki but occurred in Nuuanu. So that's not in our district. 2 of them we had arrest on, and 2 of them were reported at least an hour, almost 2 hours after the incident. So we weren't able to locate anybody, but most of them occurred either late evening or early morning in like the Moana Surf Rider Beach area, Lure Street, Fort DeRussy area, and another one by the Hilton Hawaiian Village. But again, a lot of them occurred early morning or late nights, and the ones that we did arrest suspects were based off of immediate 911 calls. We did have an increase in burglaries, and a lot of them were commercial burglaries. So the thing, when I looked into the reports, a lot of them were unlocked or open doors or windows. So that's something that I want to bring up in my safety tip is, it's kind of obvious, but just make sure that you double check and lock your doors or lock your, don't leave it ajar. Don't make it enticing for the criminal to try to break into your property or steal your belongings. But we did have an increase in burglaries, and we're trying to, we're working with our patrol units and our crime reduction units to try to pinpoint that. But again, a lot of those were also late night, early morning. So We're working on that. And I want to also speak on the upcoming Troy Barboza run. We have Tracy Bender from Space Special Olympics. She might want to jump in on that as well. But it's just June 7th, and the route is a little bit different this year. It's starting at Kapahulu Fire Station. They're going up Kapahulu Avenue, making a left onto Wailea Avenue, right on Kalele Road, into the University of Hawaii campus. And that's going to be a lot smaller footprint. Main run is going to take place around the University of Hawaii campus. So for that short run, it's basically taking it one lane, and it's a limited amount of participants in that area. The main one is going to be on University of Hawaii, but I'll turn it over for Tracy for any additional info on that and questions on that.
Yes, thank you, Lieutenant Arita. Yes, I'm sure you all are aware of the Pan Pacific Festival taking place June 7th through 9th. I believe that's the exact same dates as Special Olympics Hawaii Summer Games. So we were unable to get the permit for Kalakaua Avenue. Next year is our 40th anniversary. So we hope to be back next year down Kalakaua Avenue and do our full run and celebration for the Law Enforcement Torch Run. Does anybody have any questions?
Questions for the police department? Go ahead.
Hi, so this is Sarah Worth speaking. One thing I really wish that HPD felt when they came here was that, I'm sorry, it's not about the event itself, but one thing I really wish that HPD felt more welcome here and felt that we were here to work with them, that we were a community. Like this crime, we're in it with you to fight it. So I thought of two possible solutions. One for the loud mufflers, because I do agree with Daniel, it is increasing dramatically. And I think as the summer months approach, we're going to get more and more loud mufflers, loud bikes. So you'd have a sign periodically when you're driving down Kalakaua. It says, drive with aloha, or it has like a little, warning about events that are coming up. Is there any way of having that, perhaps at the entrance, like we only have 3 entrances basically to Waikiki, stating that, loud mufflers are now not permitted or prohibited? Because I'm not sure a lot of people know that yet. And then, yeah.
I think that's actually a great idea, Sarah. I can work with my community policing team to come up with that. And we do have at least a couple signboards, so we can place one probably at the front of Kalakaua and maybe somewhere else in the district. But yeah, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you coming up with proactive solutions to problems instead of just complaining about them, but actually coming up with solutions. So thank you.
Well, I'm glad you like solutions. I've got one more.
Okay, perfect.
So the other one I was thinking about was, how, I guess the word I call them meter maids. You guys remember meter maids that would go and all they did was give out parking tickets? I know that we're waiting. We have 420 officers that we're waiting to get those positions filled or waiting for them to be trained. So it's gonna be months until we are fully staffed. And I can see that's why you're probably still stuck at work. So is there any way that we could have like muffler maids or people that aren't going into arrest, but they can at least give citations?
I can definitely check with our traffic division on that, especially Major Slater. He used to be with traffic division, so he probably knows about it more than I do. I do there may be some issues because I remember there were only like a handful of meter maids employed that covered the entire island. Don't quote me on this, but the last number I heard was like 6 or something like that. But I'll double check on that. But I do think that's a great idea, and it just would be probably requiring them to seek more training on different types of laws and like the moving violations versus just the parking. But yeah, that definitely is something that we can look into. And then I'll ask Major Slater to touch on his contacts in the traffic division, and maybe we can work that out.
Any other questions for HPD? Okay, go ahead, sir. Please use the microphone over here. That's all right.
Do I get to do my Elvis impression? All right, Rand Burke. It is in relation to the same thing. And my concern is it seems it's kind of the police will take care of it approach, which I understand, but I'm just wondering how does just citizens, residents get more involved in the process? Like, could there be a point person? Because, you know, and we're just sitting on our lanais and we're hearing these troops of motorcycles go down and we're thinking, well, that's an easy shot, right? Just come out there, 9 guys on big gnarly bikes. Should be pretty easy, but it kind of happens pretty much every weekend. So is it possible to have an actual point person for those kinds of, I know it could be a little nuts. Could it be everybody complaining about small issues, but you know what I mean? Something like that.
Like somebody just to specifically complain about loud mufflers too? Is that
Well,
what you?
well, how about notify? I don't
I
want to see it
think
so much as complaining, but you know.
I think 911 is still the best call because everything is documented. You know, the dispatcher documents it. It goes through our whole. You know, it's basically audited through that, and that's the fastest way to get the information out there. Because let's say if you make me the point person, I only work 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, right? So I'm not constantly checking my work phone or my email or anything like that. So I think 911 is the best bet, but calling it in is important because let's say you're on Alamon Boulevard and you call it in, you know, 9 motorcyclists or whatever, and they're headed Diamond Head bound on towards Kalakaua Avenue. You know, we're not necessarily going to respond to Alamana Boulevard. You know, we hear the information that you're relaying, and we're going to respond. Okay, if they're heading down Diamond Head bound, let's shoot for Kalakaua, maybe by Kaiolani or something like that, and we'll try it stage there. But again, it also depends on who's available. At any given time, we have 10 officers assigned to patrol, 5 in Sector 1, 5 in Sector 2, and the split is like Seaside Avenue, Royal Hawaiian Avenue. So depending if they're on calls for service, where they're positioned in the district, and even though it's a small district, they might be out of their vehicle or whatnot, responding to that case may or may not take priority over something else. But I think, yeah, definitely, I like the idea, but 911 is the best bet because everything is documented, is audit, we can track it, everything like that. Anything else is probably not as effective.
And so what kind of information would be necessary to make it clear where it is and, you know, so it's more specific?
Definitely description. If you look outside and you're able to see like what vehicle is actually making it. So vehicle description, type of vehicle, motorcycle, or it's a car, and direction of travel. That's probably the best bit. The direction of travel and the vehicle description.
And then it's not related. Changing issue. Yeah,
Real
so-
fast, do pictures or videos, are those helpful too, or should we not really bother trying to?
I think if it for a sense of speed, like if it's a chronic offender, let's say it's like a you have one, like in certain communities that like maybe it's the one moped that's constantly going up and down the street. Like this is like by my parents' house that there's one moped that keeps going up and back and forth, and that's the guy that's always doing it. Then I think a picture or video would help. And then at that point, that's something where you could send to me and we could investigate it further, like try find the license plate. But if it's a one shot thing where it's like, oh, it's just a group of motorcyclists on their Sunday ride, or just a loud muffler or a vehicle with a loud muffler that sporadically, might not be consistently coming through, then I think the quicker you can get the 911 call in, the better. And it wouldn't be practical to stop and take a video or a picture and then lose the valuable time, the reporting time, right?
Other questions for the police department?
So I guess this is just kind of speaking loud. Yeah, a loud moped is going by right now. I think this question is more a procedural thing. Sometimes police officers and emergency crew will come by and there'll be like 7 or 8 vehicles for one small incident, what appears to be one small incident. Can you address why that happens? It seems like if there are resource issues, I'd like to kind of know why so many people.
Depending on the case, like for a smaller case, of course, if it's like you just reported a cold case theft, then one officer should be enough. Maybe if they have a trainee, it'll require 2 officers. But more often than if it's any type of violent offense or possible offense where there's risk for injury or anything like that, more officers would typically respond. They might not necessarily call off and be like, put me off here, I'm unavailable for any other calls, but they might just show up just as a safety precaution just to see what's going on or assist with the investigation, because something like a burglary case, even though it's maybe a cold case where there's no suspect arrested, if it's a burglary to a house or a residence or a commercial premises or something like that, there's a lot of investigation that needs to go on, whether it's, fingerprints, diagram, surveillance, statements, and stuff like that. So it allows, more people allows it to go quicker and everyone can share the load versus one person being overwhelmed. But generally, if the supervisor are on top of it, we will, like a sergeant or a lieutenant will show up, assess the situation, and slowly dismiss officers as needed. But you know, anything can happen. And if, like, let's say somebody was to be arrested for something, we generally like to have more officers, because I don't know if any of you train martial arts or jujitsu or wrestled, but it's generally hard to restrain somebody safe and while protecting their health and your own health in a safe manner with the least amount of injury possible. It's generally very hard. Like if it's a one-on-one situation or one-on-two, even one-on-three, it's very hard. So sometimes the more officers to control those types of scenes or dangerous scenes, or if weapons are involved, it's actually safer for us, safer for the suspect, safer for the public. So those bigger cases like that, you might see more officers, but generally the supervisor on scene will assess the situation and dismiss officers as needed.
Any other concerns?
Hi, everybody. Sorry, especially for that, for the multiple responses. Sorry, I just wanted to ask. My name is Ryan Yamamoto with the District 6 CPT. Just want to make sure everyone understood too, especially for MedAssist. So if something happens like medically, it's going to be whoever gets there first. So whether there's going to be EMS, HFD, or us, right? So I think on the island, there's only maybe 20 EMS rigs, and there's maybe a few fire departments that are close by that's going to respond for a medical emergency. So if someone needs like a defibrillator, it's whoever's going to get there first. That's probably why you're going to see like a large response from all first responders in those type of cases. Just to add.
That's a good point, Ryan. Thank you.
Clear? Melissa?
Melissa Feelick, John Deutschman and I were having a discussion the other day about Lemon Road. Why is it that we have two homeless individuals that are able to camp out at the end of the street and the police department can't do anything about those two at Poakalani and Lemon Road on the corner there?
Well, yeah. Well, I'm in that email thread with Mr. Deutschman as well, and I mean, basically, it's we're trying to figure out who owns that property, right? And once we can decide, see who, if it's city and county, then we'll gladly take care of it. But there's some type of misunderstanding on who owns the road.
But why so you can't arrest them if Highgate owns the road? Or you can't ticket them if Highgate owns the road?
Then it's private property, and we'll need a representative from Highgate to. That's like if somebody was in your apartment, and I can't go in there and just kick them out unless you say so.
So they can respond to the hostels, but they can't respond unless Highgate calls on the street.
It depends on the type of violation.
John?
Lisa, did you have a question? Hold on a second, John. Did you have something? Oh, okay. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, hi, John Dutzman. I've been back and forth on this. Lieutenant Arita has been copied. Somebody in this city needs to know who owns Lemon Road. There's a guy who lives there who allegedly has been diagnosed with meth-acquired psychosis, but he's figured out the property maps and the complex ownership, and he knows that he can sleep there without getting in trouble, but nobody in charge seems to know who owns it. I spent, I don't know how many hours trying to figure it out. I was on the map today supposedly it was the Chun brothers, but according to the state, they got that by fraud. And the Chun brothers may have given it to Highgate, but maybe that was fraudulent. But then Highgate says to me that, no, we thought we gave that back to the city. And the city's saying, no, you didn't. So somebody's got to figure this out. I know there's a lot of people brighter than me on that, but I wish somebody would figure it out. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
So I can tell you Highgate categorically owns that road without any doubt. And I know they may go around in circles, but Highgate Hotels and Kelly Sanders are responsible for that street.
Kelly Sanders wrote to me yesterday that it was his impression that it was gifted back to the city. And then Mike, the city manager, said, nope.
That's the hotel trying to avoid their responsibility.
So as you can see, it's a very complex issue. So I'm in on the emails with Mr. Douchman, so is my major, so is my captain. So we're aware of it, but we don't want to rush into things and violate people's civil rights for basically an issue that, I mean, that's not necessarily like life-threatening yet, you know. So we want to make sure we got all our ducks in a row, make sure the proper research is done, and then we'll act on it if, you know, we have the authority to do so.
I don't see any other hands. Do we have anybody else online that had something? No. Okay, thank you, everybody. We'll move on to the Board of Water Supply. Dominic?
Good evening, Dominic Diaz with the Honolulu Board of Water Supply. Unfortunately, we did have one main break. This was on April 15th. This was just on the Waikiki side of the bridge there at Kalakaua near the Alawai Canal. Early morning break, it snarled traffic most of the day for repairs. So hopefully not too many people were impacted there. No construction in the area. Just a real quick general announcement. Since the closure of Red Hill, the Board of Water Supply has been sort of keeping updates on all the situations related to Red Hill. And on our website, if you go to boardofwatersupply.com/protect Oahu water, we've got basically all the updates there, any testimonies the board's provided. We've been graphing the island and regional pumpage for the Aiea Halava area since the closures of several sources. We've got tips on water conservation, and there's a short piece in there on the history of water on Oahu if anyone's interested. But other than that, I'd be happy to take any questions on behalf of the Board of Water Supply at this time.
Go ahead.
Hi, Dominic. Michael Brown here. There was a water main break Sunday in front of the Kealani condominium over here on Alawai.
Okay.
And the lights, it was fixed. The light standard, though, sustained substantial damage. The decorative bezels to the base are destroyed and lying in the grass beside the sidewalk, as was the light fixture and its ornamental surround. And those are all just lying in the grass. And I wonder if they're going to get picked up, cleaned up, or who then will come in and fix that.
Sure. Let me check on that after this meeting. I'm sorry, what was the name of the condominium, the development?
It's in front of 2355 Alawai. So it's at the corner of Paoakalani and Alawai. Took almost most of the day, 8-9 hours to fix, but it's fixed. Thanks.
Any other questions for Board of Water Supply? Yes.
So I'm hoping you can answer this question. We had the presentation you provided, which was great, saying how our rates were going to go up quite a bit over the next 5 years. So one of my concerns about Waikiki is, so we have infrastructure in place, correct? Like the pipes already laid down. There's a certain amount of water that can come through it to provide enough for our community.
Mhm.
So what happens when you build like a huge hotel and you build more hotels or timeshares? Are we going to have to replace those pipes, make them bigger? How are we going to accommodate like this sudden boom of high rises?
Sure. So with any new development, we take a look at what the development is, what the demand generated is going to be. And then we do an assessment on the system in place, whether it's capable of providing adequate pressure. We have minimum standards. So we're able to model the impact of any new development and see that we are able to meet our standards. If we are not, then it's incumbent on the developer to make the necessary improvements to the system to be able to accommodate what it is they're trying to build. So if there's portions of mains that have to be upsized or, all new mains that need to come in, then it's on them to put up the money to make those necessary improvements to be able to accommodate what it is they're trying to build. So the rate increase is basically related to the maintenance of what's in ground in place to service existing customers.
We have one of the more antiquated systems here. So as you know about a lot of things, I'm all for the price hike, and I know you guys have been trying really hard to get the citizens to not overuse water. So I appreciate it.
Yes, and just reading an article today, they're predicting. I think the article said last summer was possibly the hottest summer ever, and they're predicting another hot summer. So as I do every time I come up here, I'm going to encourage everybody to be mindful of water use. Please remain conservation minded. The resource is not infinite. So we want to make sure that we're responsible in how we're using water. So
Anything else? Oh, go ahead.
Hi, Dominic. Just a follow-up question on what Sarah just asked you. Are there public records available regarding the developers and what they pay for when there's a project that requires a water main to be increased in size? So would we have access to public records, or how would we see that?
don't want to misspeak. I don't necessarily know that be public. If the Board of Water Supply does a project, if we do a maintenance or repair project, all of that is public. So the plans, the specs, the bids, the pricing, all of that is something you could see. If a private developer comes in and they have to do their own planning, design work and construction installations, improvements to accommodate their development, I don't know that that necessarily is a public facing document that would be provided to anybody upon request.
Maybe for a future meeting, if you could go back. So I'm curious, just like Sarah was wondering, we've got a potential project that's going to come up in Waikiki. We had a discussion about it at the meeting last month. So if this high-rise hotel goes up, that's an example of what Sarah was talking about. If you could go back in time and just find one example of where there was, maybe there's a couple of multi-story buildings going up and you did have to go in and increase and there was paperwork or documents, how would we see that? And how do you see that? Just so there's transparency for that.
Sure. And I can talk to the group that, basically the Board of Water Supply receives a request for the availability of water for any new development. And that sort of triggers the start of this assessment of our system, its capacities, our means to be able to service that development. Let me find out how somebody might, take a look at that and how that process would work, and I can get back to the board.
That was done with the Hyatt Centric, where they had to do their own water inputs before they could build a building. It was part of the development plan approved by planning and permitting. So it was a major project to get enough water when they converted from a business building to a hotel, because obviously a lot more water was going to be used.
A lot of times the infrastructure is set to be able to provide adequate fire flow, and fire flows tend to be a lot higher than residential, needs and flows. So a lot of times if you have a existing system, there are accommodations for new developments in that the system is set to already provide a large amount of water for the purpose of firefighting. Then it becomes an assessment on your source availability and impact to the resource and the size of the development, then starts to play a factor in the approvals.
I don't see any more hands. Don't see anybody online. Thank you, Dominic, for being with us. Okay, next on our agenda, Board members, do you have a volunteer to fill the vacancy in Sub-District 3? Does anybody have a? Yes, Alyssa?
We had Rolf Nordahl here last meeting. He couldn't make it tonight, I guess. And he was interested. He's the president of the Waikiki Grand Hotel Board of Directors.
It's Walt, what?
Nordahl, Rolf, R-O-L-F, Nordahl.
Any other volunteers?
A point of information.
Huh?
Point of information.
For Sub-District 3?
Yes, sir. One of my questions is, I thought you had to be present in order to have a vote. Okay, I'm just making sure that's clear.
Yeah, you have to be here. So seeing no others from board members, we will roll that into the next meeting if any board members have a volunteer. If not, yeah. Yes, go ahead. Yes, that's the way we normally do it.
What is your name, ma'am? Oh my gosh. Hi. Sir, I actually do have a nomination. Stephanie Easley from Sub-District 3 would like to fill that position.
Did you get the spelling?
Oh, the first thing we should have done is she's supposed to come up and tell her about herself, and you guys would ask questions, and then we go on the nomination. And only the nomination requires only just one vote, one person just to nominate someone. We don't need like a second or anything.
Also, do you have information where you live? That's critical.
Short. Good evening. My name is Stephanie Easley. I reside at Canal House on Alawai Boulevard. My mother and I also jointly own a condo in Liliuokalani Gardens right next door. I've resided in Waikiki. I purchased my condominium in 2010. I moved in 2018. I serve on the board of the Canal House. I am a lawyer. I do not have a license to practice law in Hawaii. But I serve as a legal fellow for the Coordinating Group on Alien Pest Species. I'm employed by the Research Corporation of the University of Hawaii, and I'm very interested in the actions of the neighborhood boards.
Okay. Board members, do you have questions? You nominated her and you have a question?
I just want to make sure it's on the record, sir. So because she's very modest, I would like to just mention a couple of other things. She actually is graduated from Stanford with honors, and even though, she worked for the largest corporations, but then she decided she wanted to help the community. So she left a huge high-powered job to take on a government job at UH. And the invasive species that she's working on is fire ants, which is a huge crisis right now. So I would love to have you give us more information on that.
Actually, for my career, I served as a legislative counsel in the United States Senate, primarily to the intelligence committees and the Judiciary Committee working on immigration issues. I moved to Hawaii and took my position as a legal fellow with UH because I was interested in conservation and interested in making a difference on a local level.
Okay. Board members, any other questions? Seeing none. And the address is correct. Okay.
So Sarah, you nominate her? Okay. Just gonna put that down first. Okay, when I call your name, please say her last name. What's your last name again?
Easily.
Easily. Okay. Okay. Anderson. Oh, you need a certain name. Okay. Michael. Yeah. Yeah. When I call your name, you say your last name. It's a procedure.
Vote against or not vote?
Oh, no, that's voting for you right now.
What if they don't want to?
Oh, they just don't say your name. Okay. Okay. Cabanero. Okay. Sotaro. Okay. Lewis.
Yes.
You're voting for her easily? Oh, okay.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, there's no, I'm not clear. I mean, there's nobody else unless you want to wait till next month when the other person shows up. But if you have to be here, I mean, she certainly seems well qualified. And
She's the only one who's here, the only one who's been nominated. So we're in the midst of a vote.
yes, so yes, no, I'm happy to vote yes.
But we would not have had the election anyways because it was not properly noticed on the agenda. So we had to wait for the next meeting anyways. So.
I'm confused.
Yeah, I'm confused. We have to wait. If we have to wait till the next meeting, then why are we voting?
Based on her opinion.
Let's finish it.
Okay, we'll just finish it. Melissa? Finley? Easily. Easy. Jacob? Daniel, sorry.
Easily.
Okay. Ken? Okay. Jeff? Okay. Greg? Okay. Mark? Okay, and Sarah. Okay. 10. We have 10 for yes, 3 for abstain. So she is now part of the board.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to working with you all.
Please come up and take the oath of office. Recess for just a couple minutes.
I get so many. It's so.
We are back in session, everybody. Next on our agenda is citizens' concerns, not on the regular agenda. Does anybody in the audience have a concern? Please, Daniel, let him have a.
This applies to just about any pedestrian sidewalk on the island. But I was almost run over on the sidewalk by motorized vehicles a number of times in recent weeks. Motorized skateboard, motorized scooter, and electric bikes. So I'm just curious as to what government agency, city or state or whatever, and what what the current laws are as far as what these motorized vehicles can and cannot do on the pedestrian sidewalk. I was on a Beaky bike program because my car was in the shop a couple of years ago, and I rode on the sidewalk. But I felt unsafe on the road, and I apologize to everybody, all the pedestrians walking by. But nowadays, the motorized vehicles just zoom by you, and you take a wrong step, you can be knocked over. So if anybody can help me and let me know what government agency, what the laws are, that would be great. Thank you.
Just for your information, I asked the same question to the city on Saturday, and our mayor's representative is going to have some answers for us at the next meeting because it was too late to get it on the agenda. Basically, mine was about a 101-year-old resident who drives a three-wheel scooter and had the same thing. A motorized vehicle almost knocked him off the sidewalk. So Nola, you'll have that for us at the next meeting. Thank you. Other citizens' concerns?
Thank you, Chair, for the 2 minutes. Over the past 4 months, we've been in the state legislature has been in session, and some of the editorials coming out over the last week as businesses wrapped up suggests that it was a quote unquote historic session. Doesn't feel that way. It feels like another underwhelming session for another underwhelming year. I know there was a lot of focus on what's going on in Maui and the Maui wildfire response. Hopefully this session they get the help they need. But if you look around, Hawaii is crumbling around our eyes. The city is in disrepair. Our beaches, our public spaces are crumbling. Go walk along the Alawai Promenade. There's trash everywhere. The promenade's falling into the canal. People are just throwing random junk. I've seen bicycles and chairs and shopping carts all pushed into that canal. Our roads are a scandal, even where they've been freshly paved. The work is shoddy at best. And it is becoming increasingly unaffordable to live here. We have a huge taxation burden here, huge financial burdens. The cost of living is out of control. And out of this past session of the legislature, some minor bills were passed that try to help alleviate, high prices of housing in particular. Hopefully that can work. But on the whole, it was underwhelming. And as we hear from our elected and appointed officials through today, I hope that they don't have a sense of complacency going into the election cycle, because complacency is stagnation, and stagnation leads to a crumbling state, which we face right now. It's too much, costs too much to live here. Our services are too poor for what we pay. We deserve better. We deserve a beautiful city. We deserve a beautiful state. It's time to start demanding that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other concerns? Seeing none, we'll move on. Oh.
I got less than that. It's like drum roll, please, garbage trucks. It's just, I don't know. I did a little research on it, and this has been something that's going on for how many decades now, and no one really has any answers. They bring up a new law, and then they get a big stink out. Everybody gets all excited about it. Oh, finally the change we need, nothing happens. I'm really wondering, why doesn't it happen? I mean, I honestly can't, on the internet research that I have at my fingertips, I don't know why it's okay to race down a street at 5:30 in the morning, 5 in the morning, slam trash truck. Or trash cans. I just don't get it. And I really don't understand how difficult it is. I've lived in other cities. They don't do it. There are other ways of dealing with it. For some reason, this is so entrenched. And then I start getting all conspiracy, like who's getting the kickback and how come people are dumb or all these terrible things. But there's got to be a better answer than people are dumb and it's a conspiracy. So I'm just wondering, how do we actually in real life deal with this issue that everybody in this room deals with everybody in these buildings deals with. I'm just thinking, I'm not a person who gripes just for the fun of it. I really want to see solutions, but in this circumstance, I feel a little at my wit's end because how many times can you bring up laws that everybody ignores and then it just gets trashed at the end? So what do? Just move to Ohio? I don't, you know what I mean? So there's gotta be something. So for the record, it's me griping, but I'd really like to see something a little deeper than that.
Thank you. Any other items that are not on the agenda? Yes, ma'am.
Catherine Lee, I would like to know if there is something being done about between the library and the Alawai Golf Course. There's a strip of land as you drive in there that has become more or less occupied by houseless people. And I guess they're allowed to camp there, even though there are signs that no camping is allowed between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. And moreover, almost every night there is screaming that goes on along the Alawai and into that area. So I don't know if that's a disturbance of the peace, if that's a reason to address the issue, but that screaming goes on pretty much every night in the middle of the night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, what location is it? Did she just say all?
The location was, you said behind the,
Yeah.
It's like a trail.
Oh, it's back.
Oh, Chair. Could I make a quick comment, Chair?
I can recommend constant calls to 911 on that.
Oh.
So that they know that there's a problem.
Just a quick comment. I can confirm what she's saying. I've been over there either to go to the library or to walk through the area. I've seen screaming matches, yelling, bikes being, it looks like a bike was being stolen or people were arguing over a bike. So it's a rough area back there. So I do confirm that. I've seen it quite a few times.
We'll have to send a note to District 5 about that. But I'm serious. Call 911, keep it going on and on. Make sure they know that the problem is there. They may not fix it, but at least there's a record that it's going on. Not easy to fix. Anybody else? Seeing nothing. Okay, next on our agenda, we have public events. And last month, I announced several that are happening this month. I'll go back over them again. On Monday, May 27th, 6:30 to 9:30 p.m., the Shintoyen Lantern Floating Festival. That's at the Alamona Beach Park. But traffic is impacted heavily in Waikiki by the Alawai Bridge. So if on Memorial Day, if you're trying to drive to the shopping center, I anticipate a lot of traffic in that area. Friday, May 31st, as the police officer said, the Troy Barboza Torch Run. It's a run by police officers honoring a Troy Barboza who died in the line of duty, and they go up and light the torch for the Special Olympics. Friday, June 7th, we've got from 5:30 p.m. to midnight, the 41st Annual Pan-Pacific Matsuri Ho'olaulea. Has anybody got questions about that event? Okay. Friday or Saturday, June 8th, 8:30 p.m. a.m. To 1 p.m. We have the King Kamehameha Celebration Floral Parade on Sunday, June 9th, from 4:15 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. We have the 41st Annual Pan-Pacific Matsuri Waikiki Parade. On Sunday, July 13th, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., we have the Family Day Parade, and that's a religious event. Anybody have questions on any of those events? Yeah.
So I just want to make clear that the times that you just stated are not the times of the event, or are they the actual times of the event, or are they the times for the road closures?
The road closure times.
So I want to make sure that's clear. Thank you.
Seeing no questions. Applications for liquor license or fun part. Tim Ho Wan Restaurant expansion on the existing floor plan. I don't know their address, but they're adding a few square feet. Thursday, June 6th, the Liquor Commission meets and they consider the Waikiki House by Romer, 415 Nahua, for a hotel general license. Also on the 6th, Makanalani, a dining experience. Check that, it's June 27th, with the public hearing, and that's at 711 Kapiolani. And I got one in the mail after the agenda. The Waikiki Ambassador Hotel by Romer is asking for, has been given a special license until the Liquor Commission can meet and consider their full-time license. So that would be from June 16th through August 20th. Those are the liquor requests for license. Yep.
Is that number B the same as the Romer that you got in the mail notice for? Or it's
There's two
another one?
different hotels.
Oh,
One is on Nahua Street, which is going to be, it was in the newspaper the other day. I think Allison reported on it. It's going to be Waikiki's first adult-only hotel with a, strangely, it has a wading pool instead of a swimming pool. I don't know why that would work, but anyway. And the other one is the former Ambassador Hotel, which applied for a hotel general, but they're still waiting to have it here. Okay. Now we have the fun part. Mayor's representative, Nola, representing Mayor Langiardi.
Good evening, Chair Finley and members of the board, Waikiki Neighborhood Board and residents. Greetings, thanks for having me this evening. So I guess I'll start off by talking a little bit about the highlights from the mayor's newsletter. And so basically, I think one of his most important announcements is that the Department of Planning and Permitting has made a lot of technological improvements that they just rolled out earlier this month. So I think that will make a vast difference. We'll see how they do, but they do have a huge backlog, and we're very confident, the mayor is very confident that this will help things speed up a little bit. They did actually release the 2024 sustainability report for the island of Oahu. And I think it's positive news. So there's been across the island a 12% decrease in water usage, a 6% decline in municipal electricity usage, a 32% increase in food hub sales, and at least 3,679 trees planted citywide in the prior year, 2023. So I think that's very exciting news. This month is also Wildfire Awareness Month, and I think especially given what's happened on Lahaina, that's kind of as you probably noticed, there's kind of a heightened emergency response. There's more communication. They are working very hard to make sure that we're prepared for any kind of emergencies, whether it's fire or flood or anything like that. The mayor did, I think of interest to everybody here, the mayor did make a special trip to Capitol Hill earlier this month to try to get more money for homelessness and affordable housing, since it's one of his priorities. He joined, I think there were 50 members, other mayors from across the country lobbying for more federal funding for these issues, really hitting the big cities. And finally, two kind of fun announcements. Actually, the city has on this, if you go to the website where you can look at the newsletter, the city is hiring for summer fun programs. And so if you know anybody that's coming back from college or is here for the summer, please encourage them to sign up for summer fun, because the more summer fun leaders we have, the more students we can accommodate in summer fun. And there's always a really high demand. We never quite have enough summer fun leadership. And also for Memorial Day, we are looking for people to solay, donate flowers, and donate leis. And that's also on the mayor's newsletter. Some of the things that from last month that I want to talk about. Well, so the mayor's town hall, the one in Waikiki, was held in Manoa District Park, and some of you were there. Thank you for attending. There's 4 more mayor's town halls. They're on the Thursday of every week, and the only one really in town. They're all kind of out of Honolulu, but there's one at the Koko Head District Park Gymnasium, Thursday, May 23rd. That's next week, Thursday, at the Koko Head District Park Gymnasium. So if anyone wants another opportunity to get in front of the mayor and ask more questions, that's going to be a good chance to do it. And okay, so from last month, some of the follow-up questions that we got. So I think there was a question about the Alawai watershed collaboration. And the question was, what is it? Why is it that certain stakeholders are not included in the group email, Alawai Watershed Friends, Trees for Honolulu? And so last month we reported, I think this was sent to DDC because they're conducting the Army Corps of Engineer watershed, Alawai Watershed Project, but this is not their program, the collaboration. And they sent it to DFM, and DFM said it's not theirs either. So I finally did a little bit of research, and I found out that the city is actually not part of the Alawai Watershed Collaboration, which is actually a part of the it's actually part of a working group for Hawaii green growth. And actually, we're very fortunate because one of the co-leaders of this watershed collaboration is Rick Eggett, and as well, and together with Daniel Naho'opi from the Hawaii Tourism Authority. So I asked Rick to talk to everybody about this really important working group. And so when he gets up this evening, he'll give us a short report on what that is and how it works. Okay, last month, we also had this question about feral chickens. What can we do about feral chickens on private land? And so this was from the Customer Services Department. The city has contracted Sandwich Isle Pest Solutions to manage the feral chicken population across the island. It's a very difficult problem, but for issues on private property, they have secured reasonable rates for people through negotiation, and also the city will subsidize part of the cost, but not all. So if you have chickens on private property or on other people's private property, someone have to pay for some of the expenses of removal. But you can go to the CSD website, www.honolulu.gov/CSD/feral-chickens. So if you just go to honolulu.gov and look up CSD, you'll eventually get to the feral chicken page, and you'll be able to, get some help in getting the chickens off private property. Oh, and they also said you can also contact Sandwich Isle Pest Solutions. There was another request about a grease container outside the Sushi Spot restaurant at 204 Liliuokalani Avenue, and DPP looked into that. They did say on 4/19/24, they went and they investigated the problem, but they could not find any grease containers at the property or of observable violations. So they did look into it. This next one was a request directly to me from Jay Pinedo, a resident. And he suggested that the Princess Kailani statue, which is near here, be painted gold because he has seen this in other jurisdictions or cities. It's at the Princess Kailani Triangle Park. And so it was referred to the Department of Parks and Recreation, and they have referred this to MOCA, the Mayor's Office of Culture and the Arts. And so it is under their jurisdiction because it's considered artwork in a city park. So we will have to follow up with MOCA and get back to you next week. And I mean, I'm not really sure how many people actually want to have the statues painted gold, but you know, just in response to this request, I'll follow up on that. And that's it.
Oh, questions for the mayor? Go ahead. Great.
Aloha, Nola. I just have one question. I was watching one of the recent town halls on Alelo, so I was watching it from home. I wanted to attend, but I wasn't able to get there in time. And I noticed that Dawn Kapuna, did I say her? Actually, I now am forgetting Dawn's last name all of a sudden.
You mean from DPP?
DPP, Dawn Takeuchi Apuna. Thank you. I said Kapuna because I'm always think Kapuna issues. Dawn Apuna mentioned something about Jiro Sumada. So someone asked a question about DPP, and she said she still had contact with Jiro Sumada, and I wasn't aware that he left DPP. So that's my question. What happened to the deputy director of DPP, and is that position being reassigned to someone new?
Yeah, so he has he was I guess his situation is basically he's left the city. He actually came out of retirement to take this position for Dawn, and he's gone back into retirement. But my understanding is he's with he's joined a consulting company. So I think he had a very good opportunity. So unfortunately, you know, it's a loss for the city, but she is looking to, or I guess the mayor is looking to replace that position right now, to put someone in there.
Okay, so the position is currently open.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Yes.
Hi, Sarah Worth speaking. I have to tell you again, thank you so much. You're the best you always follow up, and the fact that, you know, you get the runaround, it kind of is comforting that sometimes you get the runaround too, like what department's supposed to take it. But you always are able to come back with an answer. So I have a question for you. I called the mayor's office regarding legacy events, and legacy events are parades and street festivals that do not have to go through the normal process of lottery. They automatically are in, streets are automatically closed, so forth. So I called and wanted to know, I was looking at the list of legacy events on the website, which the gentleman said was not the list of legacy events, even though said, however, I want to know who approves legacy events. And I'm curious too, because the Pan Pacific did not have an event for 5 years. And reading the laws, it states, I believe it's 3 years, and then you lose your legacy status. So were they given legacy status again by the mayor? That's because one of my things I'm big on is keeping money in Waikiki. I want the money to stay here. Events, you know, people who work here, I want, you know, everyone has to pay their fair share. And I'm really frustrated that so much of the money is going to the mainland, going to foreign companies. And that's why we, like Jacob said, we can't afford to stay here. So thank you.
Well, check into that. I don't know whether the change in the years has something to do with COVID, because I know that many during the COVID period, we didn't allow event parades. So it might, but we'll definitely get back to you.
I know I want to echo what Sarah said about you being so responsive, and I appreciate it too. The rooster and chicken issue, David Kalakaua Park, right where Kalakaua and Kuhio split, that is becoming increasingly infested with chickens. I have posted on 311 a couple times, but what I'm curious to know is, I understand if they're on private properties, you got to get the vendor on your own and the subsidy program. But is it possible you could kind of give us at the next meeting a history of how many times they've been into Waikiki and where, and how many chickens they've collected? You know, I've been in Waikiki for a decade, and I don't think it's been a problem until this last 6 months to a year. We're infested. And I happened to catch the PBS Insights special on feral chickens. And, the takeaway is you're just going to have to control it, right? It's not going to go away. You can't get rid of them. But I'm curious more also, you're contracting with one or you're working with one vendor to subsidize prices. Why not 2, 3, or 4?
I can only answer this because I ran CSD for a year, so I'm very familiar with feral chickens. It's difficult to find anybody who will capture and eradicate feral chickens. They may be the only ones. So that's the reason. And I don't absolutely, I'm sure they can give you a history of how many times they've been into Waikiki.
Yeah,
but the main thing I think is to try to put in a riser. So maybe Anson will put in a request to come to, it's good to put in a riser on specific areas. So sometimes the council members will give CSD a list from their constituents of specific areas where they want the city to go in and trap the chickens and try to get them in. I think the area that you're discussing, it's a little bit different when they're on the street. And if they're just all over, as opposed to if they're in a park, like a big park where they're kind of there all the time.
Park. It's David.
You mean that little triangle area?
Exactly.
And if they're kind of always there, it's okay. But if they're like there and then they run across the street and they come back, it's difficult. It's difficult to trap them because the chickens actually get smart.
Well,
they after a while they know what a trap is and they don't go for it. So you have to sometimes move the traps around. It's not easy to catch the feral chickens and keep them away.
What's interesting is Fort DeRussy never has chickens. And the only place they have chickens is right across the street from this little triangle we're talking about. So they make it across the street and somehow they deal with them. But I understand.
I also think that part of the issue is perennially people that feed them. So, on the federal property, maybe they just really control the making sure that no one feeds them. When we have open city properties, often you have people that habitually feed the chickens and the pigeons and the cats, and that attracts them.
Well, maybe we can
Yeah.
call 911 about that.
Yeah. So, but definitely put in, Anson can put in a riser for different areas. And if you have specific locations, that's the best way to try to get CSD to go out.
The 311 app.
311 or Anson can put it in, but if you have specific locations, tell him where they are.
Okay. And the other thing I wanted to bring up, it's really kind of more important to me is at some point I'm going to hopefully start talking a lot about the walkability of Waikiki. I've kind of have been led to believe that Waikiki, or I now believe that we have 12, 13 lanes of traffic, I think, going back and forth through our whole area. And where I want to start today is when you're crossing Mauka to the Alawai Canal, you have to touch the button to get the guy to show up white. I think it's every single crosswalk to get to the other side of the Alawai, you got to press the button. And if you press the button, you get like 5 seconds to get across. So I want to know, I think this board has addressed this before. Can we make it so that they're automatic, that you get crosswalk automatic for every red light going, Eva bound or even towards Diamond Head on Kalakaua? So I'd like to know more about that.
Thank you, Daniel. I've brought that up once a year for the past 10 years. And the story started out, those were required for federal law. And then it changed to no, some work, some don't. So yes, following up on that would be wonderful. Okay.
Thank you, Lola, for being here, responding to our questions. Greatly appreciated. Hitting off the walkability theme here. A couple of years ago, this community was briefed about complete streets projects for Kuhio and Alawai Boulevard. And it's been radio silence since then. No projects, no updates on the city website. I wanted to know if we could get some sort of update, refresher where we are in that process. And then also with traffic, I've got 4 streets in particular I'm really worried about in terms of street parking. So further up Waikiki North, between New Street and Powell Street, that little mini section there, it's become really successful with all the food trucks, which is really nice. I'm so glad that space is being utilized positively. The problem is the streets are crowded with so much illegal parking. And when tow trucks come to try to deal with it, it just snarls traffic. And Powell Street is a particular problem because that's one of the main ways out of Waikiki, and there's a bus stop there. So you got buses coming through, and it's all unsafely narrowed. It's an unsafe kind of strode, which is just bad. And then you have the same type of problem on New Street. And I also want to bring up Namahana Street. There's a hotel, I think it's the Ambassador, got renovated, looks great, looks like they're booming with business. I'm really glad for them. But you have an unsafe street parking situation. You've got all these tour buses and all these rental cars going up and down the street. And it's just, again, clogging the road, and it's unsafe for pedestrians, and it's unsafe for drivers too. And then finally, I want to bring up Kalamoku Street, where eventually the Alawai pedestrian bridge will go. I'm worried about that street because that's one of the main exit areas out of Waikiki. Again, you go up Saratoga, you go past the Ritz-Carlton there, and then that's a main road onto Alawai and out of Waikiki. A lot of unsafe street parking there where motorists have to merge traffic unsafely in an uncoordinated way. It's just all 4 of these streets are accidents waiting to happen. And hopefully we could get DTS to come in, do some kind of assessment and figure out if we can keep street parking there or not, or if we need to reconfigure these roads to make them more safe for everyone. And then if I just have enough time, I'm very worried about the Alawai flood control project being delayed. I saw that in the news this morning, 30-year project now getting delayed because of a court case in Missouri. Hopefully we can get that resolved. And then that project, and then I saw there was supposed to be a bike project for inter-island connection. It's supposed to take 20 years to build 20 miles of bike. Let's move faster, please. Thank you.
Any other questions for the mayor? Sir, you've had 3 shots already. That's all. Please use a microphone over here, sir.
Thank you. All right, back to chickens. I'm sorry, I know, but it feels to me like the way it's set up is you're kind of waiting for the chickens to come to the cage, and they're smart enough not to. So I'm just wondering, are there other techniques that they've talked about, like maybe nets, or I don't know, there's got to be another way than just putting up a cage, because they move around, right? They don't just go, oh, this is my favorite little place. Oh, look, it's a cage. I want those 3 kernels of corn or whatever. So it seems like there are other ways of dealing with it than just putting a cage and charging someone $500.
It's very difficult. You can't put out poison, you can't just try to kill them. It's just very difficult. And there's a lot of people who don't want the city to catch feral chickens. They feed them, they are pets. And so there's always that problem with pets, feral chickens and feral cats, the same thing. And so there is resistance to capturing chickens, believe it or not. And it is a problem, and the city, does realize that they tried to, increase the budget to try to manage the problem. But it is really difficult, and just the nature of the way chickens are, and they don't necessarily, stay in one place. But the only way, we did quite a bit of research. You can, there are ways to catch them, but you can't. It depends on where they are. If they're in parks and they sleep in trees, you can get somebody to go and grab them out of the tree at night. There aren't very many people that do that method. So it's not very easy. I just know because I have spent many hours researching the feral chicken problem when I work for CSD. So it's really, that is the accepted, standard method of capturing chickens is to trap them. And you do have to move the traps around, and they have to sort of be in one area, and you can't feed them. So there is a lot of, dynamics that have to be, that when you have a public place that are difficult. You know, there's a Waikiki Park where they spent a lot of money trying to capture the chickens, and the people would keep taking the traps down and they would feed the chickens. And so it was a lot of wasted effort and money, but the residents there and the councilwoman at the time was, you know, really, they were really, you know, determined to try to fix the problem. But those are the dynamics of the feral animal population in Honolulu. I mean, we know it's a problem. It is just difficult. Yeah.
Yes.
There is a guy that goes up and down Kuhio. I may have his number, and he advertises he'll get your chickens for $10.
Yeah, so, you know, the private sector may have to resort to their own methods, and they may be able to be more aggressive than the city would be able to.
Yeah, we joke about it, but if you go to Kauai, where the vice chair is today, you'll find that there are a huge population of feral chickens. I mean, they're everywhere. So if you don't nip it in the bud, it will turn into overflowing chickens.
I do think the main thing, I mean, people do keep chickens, feral chickens, and there's a law that says you can keep feral chickens as pets, but only 2 per household. But then you see a lot of them being, you know, little chicks and everything. So, you know, that is the problem, is that people feed chickens, they house chickens, they keep them as pets, and then they multiply a lot.
Do we have anybody? Oh, go ahead. We have one on WebEx. Laura Ruby.
Yes, I have another comment to make, but to the feral chickens, I took many of ours from the Japanese cemetery. I caught them and I took them to their new home at the Manoa Stream. So you take a fishing throw net with some lead weights on them, throw them over them. If they're hens and they're laying eggs, you can reach in and grab them by the wing and pick them up and take them, and then take all of the eggs over to the stream. But that isn't I have something else to ask for the mayor, if I can do that. But since you were questioning, there's easy ways to do it, you know, and that would be one of the ways. Can I move on to the topic I wanted to talk about, please? The mayor's rep? Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yes. That is, yesterday at the city council meeting for the budget, they went ahead and approved something that is more money for the bridge over the canal, and it says a lower height and width for the bridge. And I'd like you folks on the Mackay side and us on the Mauka side to really do a good job and come together as a community and ask for the size of the bridge we want. My size, and I very quickly put that in at that budget meeting, although it wasn't probably recorded very much, is to have it 10 feet wide, because that's the width of all of our bike paths, and have it no higher, just barely higher than the Kalakaua Bridge, with the same grace of design. I don't think anybody would be upset with something like that. I think it would be a very good opportunity. The other thing is that there's the site determination. There were a number of sites that were determined. Why is this site so close to McCully Bridge, which needs to be fixed first, of course, but there's a very good site that comes from Lures and goes across to either side of the Manoa Stream. I'd really recommend that is a better place to go across and not impact people as much. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Please take it back to the mayor. I have had a correspondence with him. I haven't heard his last email back to me. Thank you, though.
Fine. Anything else for the mayor? Nobody online? Nola, thank you for being with us tonight. We appreciate it. Does Chair Waters have a representative here tonight? Okay.
Hi, Chair. It's April Colorady. I'm Chair.
Please go ahead.
I I'm so sorry. I'm joining as a last minute addition. I would have attended in person, but your normal attendee got a nail in his tire driving home. So he texted me and asked if I could attend on his behalf. We did email the newsletter to everyone, and I do have it also in the chat. And long story short, we have our legislative updates. We also talk about the PUC development plan. I don't know if you folks are aware, we update various development plan and sustainable community plans every 10 years. Waikiki is in the primary urban center development plan, and that bill has been referred to the planning committee, and it will be taken up later this year. We have links if you got this by email, or if you need me to send you something, just shoot me a note or put it in the chat. And we just want people to look at it and see what they think. There'll be a briefing and committee to explain it because it is a large document. We also have legislative updates on bills that are going through the city council. Our meeting's tomorrow. And a lot of these bills will be on the agenda for second reading and public hearing. We're also taking up the ocean safety charter amendments. So that is on the agenda tomorrow. And we also we just had a very long meeting yesterday for the committee draft 2 version of the budgets. And those will be decided for final reading on June 5th, Wednesday. So even though we had our special committee meeting yesterday, we're not hearing them until the June meeting, since it was only 2 days before this council meeting. We also have our some site visits we did in the district. And then we have a little way of how to submit testimony, best practices, how to log in, things like that. And I'm happy to take back any questions to the council member.
I'm sorry, questions for Chair Waters? Just a second, ma'am. Nothing from the, yes, please.
Catherine Lee, I was at the Diamond Head Neighborhood Board meeting last week at the Alawai Clubhouse. And I brought up the issue again of the fountain that's in front of the fire station because it's sort of in their territory. So very kindly, Tommy Waters, representative, was there and addressed the issue. And it seems that that fountain is not going to be a fountain anymore ever again because I guess the engine is irreparable. So it will be designated for everyone's information as an art kind of rock structure. So I walked by the other day, and if it is going to be an art structure, my request is that we do treat it like that, because now it's filled with rubbish and it doesn't look like it's being respected as a work of art, if that's what it's now deemed to be. So thank you very much, Tommy Waters, for taking it seriously and doing the research on it and getting an answer back to the community, because I had asked several times. So thank you.
It's sorry, Ms. Catherine. Actually, I was looking for you. I'll have to look back at my notes. There was a meeting actually that that was brought up again, where Tommy Waters stated that there was a water conservation issues, so forth also. But he was like, he wanted to get feedback from the community about what we wanted to have there, like what art we wanted. So, so that's what the last, if anyone else recalls that, that's the last I heard about.
Actually, I think it's part of board number 5. That area, I believe, is part of board number 5. Diamond Head, Kapahulu, St. Louis Heights is basically, that's in their boundary. But we can also always make recommendations. Oh, we have Laura Ruby again.
Okay. Hi. Thank you. Yesterday I was at the budget committee and Chair Waters was there also, and he looked very attentive when I was speaking, giving the testimony, and that is for the full EIS and for community collaborative participation for any kind of design build that's going to go on with the bridge across the canal. They put it in the budget. There's was a second reading yesterday. and I can see that it's in the budget. So let's be proactive and let's have the best that all the community members can have coming together and just sign something. And I just said just previously, it's designated in that budget item for it to be a low and narrow bridge. So let's make it low, no, hardly any higher than the Kalakaua Bridge, and wide, no wider than 10 feet, as our bicycle paths are. If you can convey that to Chair Waters, he heard me speaking, and I think he was pretty receptive to it, so I'd appreciate it very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else for Chair Waters? Don't see anything. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
Does Senator Moriwaki have a rep? Adrian? Tam? Oh, she's there? I'm sorry.
Here. Yeah. Sorry, I meant to come, but I too have wheel problems, so I'm not able to join you. But I did want to provide you with my report, which is in the chat. We did have a banner year this year, even in spite of Lahaina. We started off really in a position of not having enough funds. We thought that we were going to spend $600 million within 3 years, and it seemed that it was going to be within 1 year. So we really did have a difficult time, but we wanted to balance that with the other needs of the state. And I am really pleased. I think in the 6 years that I've represented you and been in the Senate, we have not had such a banner year for a number of longstanding issues. So going back to what Jacob said, we have focused in on helping our residents with the cost of living. So we have had a lot of discussion, and the result has been the biggest tax cut in the history of this state. Over the next 6 years, you will see more of your paycheck in your pocket instead of to the state. We also have a number of areas that beyond what you see in my in the chat in my report. My report focused on issues that you've brought up: noise, crime, homeless, condos, kupuna. All of those are listed in my report. What I do want to focus in on some other areas, the feral chickens, for example. And all of these are pending governor's review and signing. But what passed in the Senate and the House is a bill on feral chickens and roosters. And what it does authorize or directs the Department of Agriculture to work with the counties to have a feral chicken control program. So really looking at it from what does work and how we can put a program together, not only for catching and somehow dispensing with the feral chickens, but also an educational program. I think one of you had mentioned that, a lot of times it's a lot of the feeding of the animals, and we need to educate the population, our public, as well as to how we curtail this problem, which is becoming a health problem. We also have we talked about invasive species. We have put in this year to the Department of Agriculture almost $20 million and about 46 positions for biosecurity. And it's not only the lab, but it's also inspectors being able to address all of the pests and preventing and attacking that problem. Homeless problems. We now have a behavioral health crisis intervention center that is working in collaboration with the city. So we provide the services for the enforcement officers to drop people off, the homeless who need help, with a total assessment and able to get mental health and drug abuse problems addressed at the center. And this is a pilot, so we are looking at how we coordinate with the core program for the city, as well as the services in our Department of Human Resources, Department of Human Services and Department of Health, all working together with our Department of Law Enforcement. So a lot of collaborative efforts for the first time, not only within the state, but with the state and the counties in order to address some of these really long-standing problems that we've been facing. And as you know, crime is a big problem, so we have been working really closely again with the prosecutor's office and the Department of Law Enforcement and the police department in order to look at how, and the Attorney General's office, how we can really address this in a much more collaborative way, and addressing some of the problems that face the communities. We had a banner year for the elderly, number of programs to address, like the GET tax is exempting physicians and dentists as well as practitioners in the community, so that people on Medicare, Medicaid, and TRICARE can have more services available to them. So I think there's a number of areas, and it will all come out in the next several weeks when governors start signing these bills. But there is so much that I don't think there's enough time today to cover it. But if you have questions on any area, I'd be glad to address them.
Oh, go ahead, Sarah.
Hi, Senator. I had a quick question. Hi. So I just discovered that it's possible for a person to make all their money in Hawaii, but yet if they say their primary residence is in one of the states that does not have a state income tax, even though they make all their income here in Hawaii, as long as they say that and have a house in another one of those states that do not have a state income tax, they can avoid our state income taxes. So I was wondering how that's being addressed, because I know that they have to spend a minimum of over 200 days, I believe, at the the no income tax state residence. However, who's checking that? Who's following up on that? Thank you.
I'm not sure about the law here, but yes, I think wherever your primary residence is that where you're taxed. So I think that's probably the primary locus of your taxation. So in terms of Hawaii state tax, we can tax whatever is made here, but your primary location would be wherever your home is, and that's what you declare as your home. So I'm not sure I'm answering your question, but if I could get more specifically what you're asking, I could follow up with the tax department.
Sure. What I specifically is asking, I'm sorry, maybe it's hard for me to explain, especially when it comes to money. I can barely balance my checkbook. So what's happening is that people, they have a job here, they make their money here, but what they do then to avoid paying Hawaii state income taxes is that they're saying like, oh, I live in Nevada, or I live in Washington State. And that's my primary residence. Now they do own maybe property there, but they're not living there. They're not the minimum you're supposed to live in that other state is 200 days. However, who's like Hawaii, we're not checking up on that. So there's a lot of income we're not capturing because of this loophole, and the fact that there's no follow up, there's no it doesn't seem like there's anyone checking to make sure that that's not happening.
I could check on that, but my understanding would be wherever you make your income, you will be taxed on that. And the primary first is federal income and then the state income tax. So you go by what the state laws are. But I will definitely check on that, and next time I will report back.
Any other questions for Senator Moriwaki? Go ahead.
Aloha, Senator.
Aloha.
I have a question with respect to the $20 million for the biosecurity program for Hawaii Department of Agriculture. Assuming the governor signs that and that money becomes available, what are your invasive species priorities for Waikiki, and possibly support for the Oahu Invasive Species Committee to do projects in Waikiki? Because generally, this is not an area that has a lot of invasive species projects or OISC
outreach?
Yes, thank you for that question because I think we haven't focused so much on Waikiki or the urban areas because the invasive species like the coconut rhinoceros beetle or the fire ants have been in rural areas. I know that a lot of the invasives are, say, in Kaneohe, Waimanalo, and also in agricultural areas where they're really attacking the palm trees or in the plants that have been very visible. So I think in terms of Waikiki, I haven't really had any complaints about invasives in terms of our plants or any complaints. It's mostly been on urban problems like traffic and crime. So having you on the board, maybe we can find areas that haven't been identified, and we can bring it up with the Department of Agriculture because they really are concerned about any kind of invasives coming in, like on planes and in actually being transported from rural areas to urban areas.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have Laura Ruby again?
Yes. Yes, I'm ready to go. Is that okay? Okay, hi, Sharon, Senator Moriwaki. Yeah, I know I've sort of passed this by you before and I don't expect any answer from you, but let's try to get the cannabis bills passed this coming session. I think there's some that are pretty close to being passed. I always want to say revenue, 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 because it's an incredible boost to the state economy if it can be done in the right way, like it's already done in Washington, Oregon, California, Colorado, and other places. And I think that it really would be of benefit to the state as a whole. And you know that the history was the green harvest cut out all of our, what was the second largest cash crop in Hawaii was cannabis prior to green harvest. And then the green harvest went in and tried to eradicate as much as it could, which only pushed it underground and pushed hard drugs into the community. So it's a much better aim to have people in regulated situations with cannabis they can purchase, and it would, I think, diminish the hard drugs considerably. So you don't have to answer anything now, but I would hope that you would work on that legislation to get it passed in the next session, please. Thank you.
Anything else for Senator Moriwaki? Board members, our senator did a fine job for us this year in the legislature, as always. I'd like to thank her for all those efforts and those bills. But thank you.
Thank you for all of your work. I think because of your support, we were able to narrow down the excessive noise bill, finally passing something. So I want to thank the board because many of you did write testimony or actually were there on a number of these bills, and it really helps with the community support on bills to get them passed. So mahalo to all of you.
Thank you. Next, we have Representative Tam.
Aloha, Chair and members. Unfortunately, I couldn't get my newsletter printed in time, but I did email Anson a PDF of my newsletter, and he should be sending it out to all of you very soon. So Sine Die or Sine Die was May 3rd, and we're now in interim. Despite the setbacks with the Lahaina wildfires, we were able to obtain a lot of funding in the budget because the last time I addressed you, we didn't have the budget prepared yet, but here's some of just the highlights. Many of our students at Waikiki attend McKinley High School. They will be getting around $6 million in terms of capital improvement projects to help our kids. Alawai Elementary School will get $4.6 million for a covered play court. Alawai Small Boat Harbor will be getting $3 million in finger piers repairs. And state libraries across the state will get $10 million in terms of work. In terms of grants and aid, something that was on the chopping block we were giving, $75,000 to Alzheimer's care, $200,000 to Mo'ili Community Center, $50K for Waikiki Community Center where we are right now, and this is my favorite one, $200,000 for the Waikiki Business Improvement District Association so they can continue to improve upon their already successful program for Safe and Sound Waikiki to help them in phase 2. So that is some of the highlights in our budget. One of my favorite ones is House Bill 1577. It requires tow truck companies to finally accept credit card and debit cards. They can't just point you to the direction of an ATM anymore. Originally, the law says that they have to accept credit, debit, or cash, and they took the or as in one or the other, and now we switched that to and. So small wins, but a win nonetheless. I will have a bigger digest of all of the bills that are passed this year in my newsletter for June that is going to be mailed out to everyone's mailboxes, and it'll be posted online as well. The one sad bill that I was disappointed in that didn't pass was House Bill 2686. I spoke at length about it. It is the condominium insurance stabilization bill. Unfortunately, we couldn't come up with the funds. We were hoping to put $80 million and at least one staff position into it, but there was no agreement in terms of the members, and unfortunately, it couldn't pass. But we are working with hopefully our congressional delegation to look into whether or not there are any FTC violations or antitrust laws that can help us stabilize our insurance market. And we continue to look at our options for that. In terms of constituent concerns, we got one about tow truck companies, and someone said that they didn't accept their credit card, and that's why I thought about that. But for Alawai 1701, we've got more complaints because they did put a fence around that building because it's abandoned. But somehow people were able to top the fence and continue to tag it with graffiti. So we did send another request to DPP asking if they could alert the owners to clean it up. And that is my report.
Wonderful. Any questions for Representative Tam? Board members? Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you, Rep. Tam, for all the hard work you've been doing this session. And thank you for bringing up trying to stabilize our condo insurance market. It definitely is getting wild out here. I was just reading in the paper yesterday that Florida is just getting hit with all sorts of condo related issues, from buildings unable to afford maintenance to not getting insurance, all these types of things. So Hawaii's got a lot of older condominiums that need a lot of upkeep, a lot of maintenance. Unfortunately, in the more recent past, there has been a lot of deferment of necessary maintenance. So thank you. Hopefully next session, we can try to get property insurance stabilized for condominiums out here. That's just eating up budgets left and right. And hopefully, did anything pass this session about, is there any way the state could help defray cost of maintenance or like big projects that need to get done that could be beyond the means of an association to deal without ruinous special assessments? Thank you.
Thank you. And I think that was one of the main functions of what we were trying to propose in that bill.
I see a hand by Laura Ruby.
Okay. Hi, Adrian. This is Rep. Tam. Thank you very much. As most of the people on this board ought to know, that we have a little wedge of Mauka properties that Representative Tam also is in charge of and represents. And so I just would like to reiterate, Tam, when you get back to the legislative session in the House, just what I said to Senator Moriwaki is please bring the cannabis bills up soon so that they can be addressed and that they can get into the hopper so that we can have revenues from the state. We can clearly have revenues. And believe, although there's no quantifiable data that I know of, it will reduce any heavy drug use because it just won't be something that needs to be underground. Rather, it can be obtained legally. Thank you very much. You don't have to answer. You can just bring it up, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. And congratulations, Mrs. Waikiki.
No, it's Waikiki, but we have a little we have a little section that belongs to you.
Okay, anything
June
else?
7th, I will be competing for Mrs. Hawaii. If you all would love to support me. It's at the Windward Community College Theater
Please go
at 6
support her.
o'clock on June 7th.
Right. Thank you, sir.
Thank
you
you.
for your service this term. Appreciate it.
Anytime. Thank you.
Is William Oka here from the governor's office? No. Is Rick Eggett here from Rick Eggett? I mean, from Waikiki Improvement Association. He's going to tell us all about the LOI, whatever the heck it is.
So as requested, I'm going to first of all quickly explain the Alawai collaboration. It's an organization that came together, gosh, must be close to 20, huh? Oh yeah, a long time ago. Oh. Can you hear me now? Okay, great. Alawai Collaboration has been a group that was formed maybe 30 years ago, and it originally dealt with trying to communicate with Army Corps of Engineers about the flood control project. As a group, we never supported any specific project, but we just used it as a way to provide input. State does have representation in the collaboration. Actually, so does the city, although it was a different department than the one that NOLA had talked to. And the whole goal is to not just to deal with flood control, but also to deal with environmental issues. The Alawai Canal is one of the most polluted waterways in the United States, runs right through the center of Honolulu. And it's really a community shame, in my thinking, that we allow that to continue. And I once talked to the Department of Health, the environmental office there, and why don't you do something about that? He says, it's our canal, the state's canal. So who am I going to cite? He said. And so really, I mean, literally, the canal is so polluted, Department of Health doesn't even test the water anymore. They simply say it's should be off limits. Don't go in the water, don't fish in the water because it's so polluted. So it's something that we believe strongly needs to be dealt with. And I appreciate Laura Ruby's suggestion earlier for some different people to invite to the collaboration. Collaboration's open. It's not a fixed organization. It's really just a community forum. And so I added the members that she suggested to be invited to the next meeting. But really, in fact, I'll try to do that as an announcement in the month before to the neighborhood board too, because really anybody can attend the meetings. It's not a select group. And at this point, I'm a co-chair with Daniel Naopi. And actually, Daniel was a co-chair before he was head of HTA. But it's an effort to lead change in the Alawai watershed in order to deal with things like the Alawai Canal, and as well as invasive species and issues with the flood control. And what we are looking for is some of the more natural ways of approaching this, being able to increase the ability of open spaces within the canal, within the watershed, to be able to retain water, for example. And so there's a lot of different aspects to it, a lot of different projects that have been discussed. And one of our major initiatives right now, and I don't have time to go into it in great detail, but we do want to create a civic, which is a special improvement district for the Alawai watershed. We're not proposing any assessments in the watershed, but the idea is that it would be form under the state's special improvement district and the city's special improvement district law, and would be able to provide a forum for the community to take part in this planning as an organization. So we're hopeful that Chair Waters has said he would support a bill, and so he's currently working on our draft. And when I have more details, I'll actually ask Bob for a segment to explain it in more detail. But we believe that that's going to be the way to move this forward within the community. And see, I made some notes. So I want to make sure I come. Pan Pacific Festival, they're actually here to talk about their event, which is coming up. But to answer your question, Sarah, I believe that they received a waiver because of the of COVID. COVID didn't count towards the gap period, and because of the impact of COVID, not only here but on the Japanese economy, they weren't able to do their events until this year. So they're going to have their events again this year. And in terms of your question about, oh, is this money leaving the community? Actually, no, it's money coming into the community, because what they do is they bring more visitors here to take part in the festival, and they spend money, the money they spend here, which is all on local vendors. They're actually bringing money from Japan into the community rather than the other way around. So, but it was a good question, because I actually had the question myself. So, but anyway, and then Senator Moriwaki, she didn't go into great detail on all the things she's done for us. In fact, Rep. Tam mentioned the $200,000 for the Safe and Sound program. But Senator Moriwaki was extremely active in favor of Waikiki this session. She's on the Ways and Means Committee. She's actually in charge of the CIP on the Ways and Means Committee. And she's just done a terrific job for us. Very active, very aggressive in terms of finding out community needs and trying to fill those needs. So we're really fortunate to have Senator Moriwaki representing us. And complete streets, there was somebody brought up the complete streets. I think that was Sarah as well. No, not you. You brought up the complete streets. Somebody brought up complete streets, but somebody did. But anyway, we keep close track of that. When I say we, the Waikiki Improvement Association. And I think I don't want to speak for them, so maybe we can invite, or maybe NOLA will have an update next year. But it's my understanding that they plan to move forward with a bus lane on Kuhio Avenue going Diamond Head Eva. So it will be the Mauka side of Kuhio Avenue, and that there is money for a project that really is mostly paint, but designating that area. I know Bob and I have both participated in a lot of the meetings that they've had. We've kind of raised very strong concerns over, because they wanted to do bus lanes on both sides of Kuhio Avenue. And we were had very large concerns about that. I don't think the city, they mean well. The Complete Street guys are really good, mostly young people, and they mean well. But what they don't quite get, I think, is that the streets in Waikiki are already congested, and to be able to reduce the capacity of those streets, I believe would have a more negative impact than the positive impacts they're hoping to bring with their current projects. The Alawai portion of it is not dead, but it's kind of on hold. It's going into the future. So the short answer is Alawai, there's been no developments since they presented here. Kuhio, I do believe that they're moving forward with the Mauka, is that your understanding too, Bob? With the Mauka bus lane. So that's something that we should probably get them to come report on again. So that concludes what I have to say.
No sunsets on the beach.
I can't make an announcement yet, but actually we have a potential really positive answer there.
Very good. Any questions for Rick? Daniel?
So I'm looking at Charles' website. 50 years, remain true to its objective to improve, enrich, and beautify Waikiki for the visitors and residents alike. What can you do about our chickens?
I haven't gotten into the chicken debate, but I do believe that, as Nola said, it may well be that it's going to be easier for individuals who have particular problems around their residence to get private sector help there. Or I always thought that you could complain to get the Humane Society to come out and do that. Is that not true?
Honestly, the reason I asked is because obviously the city doesn't have the resources, has struggles with people who believe chickens should be pets, but the private industry, as Nola recognized, has a lot more leeway as to what to do. I think you represent the private industry. I'd like the private industry in Waikiki to start focusing on chickens.
Well, like I say, I actually, up until this meeting, and I've heard it mentioned a couple other meetings, I really was not aware of the problem. So, if you could send me some information on that, I'll see what I can do.
There's too many chickens.
Where are they exactly?
Okay, I would be happy, but I'd be more interested if you can come back next meeting and have an idea of how your entity could potentially help us.
Yeah, I can't promise that because chickens are not something we've looked into before, but
That's
I
what
will
I'm asking.
I'll look into it now.
Hi, so thank you for the information about the LOI. That's interesting that you guys have been working on it for 35 years because there was a time you could actually fish in the LOI. This is like, decades ago. However, it is possible. And I do a lot of volunteer work and we've done work where we clean the LOI. We pulled out a moped out of the LOI. We pulled out laptops. Like it was insane how many garbage was at the bottom of the LOI. And have you guys ever walked past and seen the fish at the top, grasping for air? I mean, that's how dirty and gross that water is. And we we're very careful not to make contact with our skin because of the risk of skin eating bacteria or being infected. So I'm glad that that's being addressed. So I'm going to have to disagree with you on one point though. So regarding festivals and parades, any festival parade is going to bring in money. The problem is that they only allow a certain amount a year. So who gets it? Who's going to get that contract? Are we going to get a mainland company to get it, or are we going to allow locals to get it? Are we going to allow And when you said that the money, the state income tax doesn't stay here, no, actually. So I actually researched these groups, and for example, the holiday parade, they're actually a tour company. So to join the parade, you have to pay them to join the whole. Not only to join the parade, but they give you a tour. So that's how they make their money. And that's how they can say, oh, we didn't make money off the parade, nothing. So that's one of the issues. I want those loopholes closed because I'm with you. It's getting too expensive to live here. And there's so much money that could stay here if we did it right.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm not as familiar with the holiday parade because that, as you point out, that's done by a mainland company. But and I think they're a legacy event too because they've been around so long. So, but that's something you could bring up with DTS. DTS gives the permissions for those street closures.
Sorry, I just, you get get the runaround. That's why I love these board meetings because when I try to solve these issues on my own, I get the runaround. DTS sent me to the mayor's office. The mayor's like, oh, no, you got to call this person. And I left a voicemail. They never called back. So
It's DTS.
Well, according to them. So,
But the thing about DTS, though, you got to realize that they have to follow the law.
Exactly.
And there's a law about these events that stipulates how these events can be run. And so DTS just can't decide, in other words, they have to follow the law.
So my issue is that law doesn't say we have to give all these contracts, all these festivals to mainland companies. We don't have to give them to foreign companies. There's nothing in the law that says we have to do that. You're right. There's nothing in the law that says that we have to hire locals or give locals priority. And that's something you can't address. Actually, maybe because you write resolutions all the time with Tommy Waters. Maybe you are my guy. So, but that is my big issue right now from investigating these parades and events. Another one, there's so many of them that are actually, I can't think of any parade that is, well, besides yours, I guess locally, right? And you're now Pan Pacific on the board, right? Is that?
I'm on the advisory committee for the Pan Pacific
Okay.
Festival. I can't claim I'm terribly active at this point, but I do support the Pan Pacific Festival for the reasons I talked about earlier. So, and I think that DTS really does, they give out the permits for this. But again, they're must administer this law, and they can only make changes within the law. And one of the major things that's in the law, which has been a point of contention that Bob and I have raised, is that these street closures should only be for a public purpose. The problem has always been defining public purpose and then getting the applicants to abide by that. And so we're working on that still.
It's funny, actually, the holiday parade is the public purpose is to, I think it's to commemorate one of the wars. I'm like, wow, Christmas, and that's what the public purpose is going to.
Yeah, I think it's right after the December 7th, right?
We have a number, but
Yeah.
we have a number of parades that are war based, like the public purpose. I don't know, public purpose of Waikiki seems very
Folks, we're running out of time. We have two important things to get to. Laura Ruby has a quick question for Rick.
Yeah, first of all, Rick, thank you very much for bringing up the collaborative community aspect. And that would be what we would like really is seats at the table for design and planning. That will really be helpful to both sides of the canal, whether it's for the bridge and for the flood control, because the Army Corps of Engineers is not talking to the bridge people. And I know you people over on the Waikiki side do not want the big concrete buttress and the aircraft carrier looking thing at the on the off ramp at the on the Waikiki side, and you wouldn't want a reduction of one lane of traffic at the Ala Moana Boulevard. I think the mayor was very concerned about that too. All of that will, if it really truly has community planning input, I think that will work very well, because you'll make sure you have your traffic flow better, and we will have, if we have a bridge, it will be a low, modest, narrow bridge. Tommy Waters was there and listened to me talk about it, and that is in the budget. So low, narrow bridge is like the Kalakaua Bridge, only smaller, only 10 feet wide, because that's the size of our bicycle lanes. So if you can carry that back also too.
Collaboration to create this special improvement district, whereas it's not a business improvement district, it's to increase flood control, environmental improvements, and climate change mitigation.
Yes.
And the whole idea is that exactly what you said, Laura, is that it can be a forum for the community to give input in a much more formal way than just everybody saying what they think. Be able to have that seat at the table for the community in this planning process.
Yes, I think so. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick, for bringing us up to date, and we will see you in 2 months.
We're off in June.
Kamehameha Day preempted our meeting.
Thank you.
But thank you, Rick. Lou, are you still there on Kauai?
Yeah, I sure am, and I'm happy to be here. Sorry I can't be there in person, but I am, and I can certainly give us an update on the final legislative report if you want.
Go ahead.
Okay, well, as in past years, we start out with like 30 pages long, and we're down to about maybe 5 or 6. In some ways, it was a typical session. I mean, I tracked a lot of bills, but in some ways, I agree with Senator Moriwaki and some of the others, and I do think that we did accomplish some things that were very specific for Waikiki. I think, and Bob submitted a lot of testimony. The ones that I would highlight would really be Senate Bill 2350, the noise bill, and Senate Bill 2347, the crime bill. I mean, we've been trying to get a noise bill, a stronger noise bill passed for a lot of years. And this year we finally did do it. This will increase the penalties. I mean, hopefully it's going to help. On the crime bill, I think we've discussed this previously. I was up there testifying. I know John was, and Bob submitted testimony. This will definitely increase the penalties for people who commit violent misdemeanors. It'll turn it into a felony potentially after 3 misdemeanors. So Jacob is my buddy, and in some ways I agree that in the big picture, Hawaii still has a lot of problems, but I also think that in terms of this session, we did accomplish a lot. It was a lot of work that I and others here did. I think next year we should probably try to get more of a committee structure or a PIG structure and I certainly support the idea of working on that early, a little bit earlier in the year. So we're not, I think what happened this year is we sort of got to the beginning of the session and time being what it was, we pretty much did it the way we always did it, which basically did work. I hope that what I provided was good information for people. We did get some condominium stuff passed in terms of like an LRB study. We didn't really get any radical reform, but presumably the LRB study will enlighten us about some of the issues and how some of the other states have done it. So if anybody's got any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but pretty much this is the final report. We have tracked it pretty well all through the year, so there isn't that much more to add.
So everything on this listing is at the governor's office?
Yes, this is a list. This is a list of all the bills that we had tracked, in some cases voted to support, that actually passed, yes. So all of these bills would be at the governor's office. I mean, unless they were signed in the last couple of days, but I don't know that that's occurred.
If you didn't get a hard copy tonight, you should have gotten one on the email.
Is it possible to have this uploaded to the Google Drive? That way the public also has access to it, because this is great information. I appreciate it. I'd love the public to see it too.
See what? Oh. Anything else, Lou, that you want to bring up?
Unless anybody has any other issues regarding what's on there. I know that Jacob and I have had some conversation about I think it's Senate Bill 3202. That wasn't really a bill that we had followed, but that concerns the ability of counties to sort of increase zoning. I know that the Tommy Waters and some others were very concerned about that. That's to say, it's not a bill that we really got involved and took a position on, but I expect that to be a big issue because now that the session is over, all the action essentially switches to the governor's office, where people either kind of lobby him to either sign a bill or veto a bill. I suspect that will be one of the hotter ones that'll be considered. I think all the other bills on this list, I'm pretty sure the crime bill and the noise bill are going to get signed. I don't see anything else on here that I would think he's likely to veto. I mean, I guess you never know, but I think that pretty much does it for this year.
Hey, do you know when the governor's going to send out his list of bills he intends to veto?
Got like is it 45 working days from the end of the session? It's usually around the end of June.
Board members, questions for Lou on this? Everybody is nodding. Lou, watch out on Kauai for the feral chickens.
Okay.
And you'll see a lot of them. Thank you, Lou.
Okay, I'll be back in a couple of days.
Okay. Next on our agenda, proposed formation of a police relations standing committee. Daniel Jacob, could you explain?
Sure. I'd like to move to create the Police Relations Standing Committee with the following members: Melissa Feelick, Jillian Anderson, Tim Gary, Jacob Winchek, and myself as chair.
Is there a second to that motion? Second? Okay, I do have one question on the names. I don't know if there's any reason we have to have, not reason, if there's any condition we have to meet where a person who's not a member of is not a resident in Waikiki can be on a committee. I don't know if there's.
Who's not is Tim
Okay,
Gary not
so
a resident?
anyone can then. Okay.
So I'd like to speak in support of my motion before you guys have it.
I was just worried I didn't know the answer to that
Sure,
question.
no problem. So there's three reasons I think we need this committee. The first one is that out of all the government entities in Waikiki, I believe that the police department is the most important one to us. That alone, I believe, is sufficient for us to establish this committee and continue and develop our relationships with the police department. I'd like to read directly from the Neighborhood Act. The powers, duties, and functions of the board shall include, number one, increase and ensure effective citizen participation in the decisions of government by providing additional and improved opportunities for public input and interactions. This alone, again, with the police department being the most important agency in Waikiki, we deserve this standing committee. The second reason is efficiency. I don't know of a neighborhood board meeting except one in my time on this board that we've gotten through everything on the agenda. We're not going to do it tonight, probably. If we develop this committee, we can take the time required from police officers during this meeting and move it to our committee, where not only it will save us some time in this meeting, but we'll have more time to get into the issues that are very quickly addressed in our 5-10 minute period here. The police they come late, they leave early, they showed up online. We do not have the necessary communications with them through this setting. So our committee would be an appropriate place for that, and that will improve the efficiency of this board. The last reason is the perception of the police. It's poor. You know, there's been some articles that things have getting better. I think John would agree things are getting better, but that doesn't mean they're good. Obviously, the story what happened to my dad is a prime example. And for an update, they made my dad submit a report that he indeed had broken ribs. That's the only thing that has transpired since our last board meeting. And I didn't want to give them any word today because it probably would have kept me from getting to this and making this motion and establishing this committee. But it again shows you why we need more time to address the concerns. So what will this board do? First of all, I'd only intend for it to meet bi-monthly. We don't need to meet every month, so every other month. They report the statistics of how many burglaries, arrests, all the crimes. It'd be good to know a little bit more about that information. Are they collectively happening on one side of Waikiki versus another? How many pending investigations are still going because of those citations? How many arrests were made in those citations? There's plenty of additional information we can get that would be important for us to know. And in regards to the perception of the police department, we fix that by communicating with them. Through this committee, we'll have the opportunity to learn what they're really working with more so we can better understand them and they can better understand us. So for these three reasons, I ask for your support in this committee. I have talked to the 5 people that I named. They are willing to serve. And so I'd appreciate your support. I think this would be a good thing.
Sarah, did you have?
I 100% support this because I brought it up months ago. But I have to say, Daniel, you were much more eloquent than I. You have much better speaking skills. I had a question for you because at the last meeting, you said that the HPD was going to attend these meetings. Is that correct? Or
My plan is to establish the committee and ask them to come. If they don't come, then we'll deal with it then. But we need to be serious about dealing with them before they're serious with dealing with us. You know, they do have outreach programs already. I don't know why they wouldn't be interested in collaborating with us to piggyback communications between our community and them. So I would be really shocked to find out if they were not willing to come 2 hours once every 2 months. I'd make reports at this committee. So I would be really upset if they wouldn't. I would think they would.
So, sorry, I had 3 things. So the second thing is I have some good news for you. I talked to Lloyd and he's the NCO. He's the head of NCO, basically our kind of boss. He stated that if you record the committee meetings, you then only have to do a video summary instead of minutes because minutes are very long, very involved, very detailed. So that's, and it doesn't have to be WebEx. It's just that you record it and then the NCO will actually post it online. So that is a huge burden taken off of you. The second thing is, say, Daniel, like, you know, I like it, like I really do, but you in the police, like you being the chair, the liaison between HPD and the Waikiki Neighborhood Board. I mean, last time you spoke, you called them worthless and you're very hostile with them. And I have to say, like, even the big, you know, speech you gave about you wanted to change getting, instead of getting citations, we would have
criticizes him more than I do, but you two are in a conversation, not about the resolution, but about personality, and that's prohibited.
So
Chair, if I could, I'm going to go back to,
proper
I'm going
protocol
to,
is you make a ruling on that point of order, and then
I see nothing wrong with what Sarah did if she's just citing something. I was actually going to say the same thing. So there's no point of order there that is valid at that point. She's just citing something that with the concern. I have the exact same concern. I also have a concern that Daniel wants to be, just self-appoint himself as chair. And he's spoken to a number of board members past the three or two, well, really two that are allowed per the Sunshine Law. This is an item on agenda for a vote. And that, in my opinion, that's a violation of the Sunshine Law. So we have serious issues with this agenda item. I think we should move on so we can actually give our reports once and for all that we never get to give as sub-district vice chairs. I'm really concerned that we don't get that moved up on the agenda going forward, but that's another concern. Thank you.
I have a motion on the floor. I have a second. We are in discussion. Lou?
Yeah, on discussion, I'm not someone who necessarily likes to agree with everybody, but I think they're having some good points. For Daniel, I basically do support the idea of the committee. And I think I think that's fine. And if Daniel wants to share it, I think that's fine. I think it's unfortunate. I mean, the incident that happened at Ken was just outrageous. And, I guess if we want to be philosophical, if we want to think that anything good comes out of any bad experiences, maybe it will make us more vigilant in terms of dealing with the police. And so, I think the idea is good. I'm happy. I don't mind supporting it. I actually think that what Sarah, I don't think Sarah was necessarily out of line either. I think that if we're going to have it done, I think it would be nice to know if the police were supporting it. If the police don't want to do it, that doesn't mean we shouldn't have it, but I think it would be helpful to have that information. I also think that it should be a basically collaborative committee. And so I think if it's going to be an adversarial committee where the police are coming and getting grilled and everything, I just don't know how productive that's going to be. So I do think it would be appropriate for Daniel to address Sarah's concerns before we take a vote on it and have some assurances that this is going to be a pretty collaborative committee. As far as Jacob and Jillian, I know them. Tim sometimes gets pretty adversarial too. I don't know how I feel about having Tim Gary on there, but to be honest with you, I think there are probably better people that maybe you could have suggested. I wonder if it would be good to form the committee and then leave the membership open. But I think a little more discussion about how this committee is going to work would be helpful before we vote.
Daniel, do you want to?
Sure. We represent the people of Waikiki who are watching online. The police department serves Waikiki. We have to be able to communicate with them. We don't get the opportunity to communicate with them here because it is too short of a time. There's too many issues that require more discussion. And of course, sometimes when you're discussing difficult issues in communities, it potentially does get adversarial. But the goal of why we're all here is to make Waikiki better. And the police have the absolute best opportunity to help us help them make it better. And so that's the point of this. I will treat it.
I'm assuming that your intent is to be as collaborative as possible, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can't, we can't force them to do everything, as I know Chair Finley, we are only a recommendation. I'll read back, from the, we're supposed to provide additional improved opportunities for public input and interaction. I will see to it that that happens. I will run an organized meeting as chair. And I will make sure that people's concerns are appropriately addressed and given the time and the attention that people of Waikiki
Well,
deserve.
I have, listen, don't get me wrong. I have faith in you, Daniel. Don't get me wrong. I'm assuming that you would run it in a professional, dignified way. Of course. I'm just saying that I think that Sarah's concerns were I think it's good to put this out there and at least have that, have some understanding about that.
I'll also point out, Lou, if someone else wants to chair it, that's fine. This idea is bigger than me, but I'm willing, I'm able, and I'm capable of doing it. So I believe I'm willing and going to do it with your support.
Is it, I'm sorry.
Before I go back to you, wait,
Point
please.
of inquiry.
You
Chair.
two have had your chance. Does anybody else want to discuss this?
It's
Ken?
actually a procedural question.
Wait, please. Ken, go ahead. Please use the mic.
Is HPD aware of this committee? Have they shown support?
At our last meeting, I made it clear that I wanted to have a standing meeting, so they should. I have not asked them, but again, we have to represent what's best for our community, first and foremost. Asking them what's best for them is not representing our community first and foremost.
To Lou's point, having a collaborative relationship is also
Yeah,
in the
and
best interest.
again, they have many resources dedicated to getting out in the community and engaging. And in fact, one of the ideas, I didn't get through all of them, try not to take up time, we only got 8 minutes, is this committee could be given the authority to establish community walks where we go with, we plan our own community walks, promote them, and go on community walks with our police officers. So yes, we have to establish this committee, and if they don't want to participate, then I think we have to have a larger discussion on how we can better improve our communications with HPD. Because it's a simple, easy way to do it. It's what our organizational statutes allow us to do for the purpose of doing this.
Greg.
So do you want to let Louis go first, or I'm okay?
Hold on just a second, please.
I'll be brief. So I know originally when committees were mentioned, Sarah brought up committees. We discussed also at that point, that was Sarah's brainchild of having some committees. We don't seem to have any committees. And we did discuss HPD, the police. My concern with what's going on this evening with this agenda item, again, is there's been a pre-discussion with people, predetermined. That's not the way this works. It's okay to put it on the agenda. It's okay that Daniel discusses it with Chair Finley, but it shouldn't be discussed with other board members and predestined, and he's going to be the chair of it. And Sarah's concern and my concern are there. There's been numerous times where there's been disparaging comments made about the police by Mr. Jacob, and we've all heard it. It's on the record. So there's nothing disparaging about saying that. It's on the record. It's a concern. We want a voice and a representative, if we do have a committee, that's going to be the best spokesperson for the group. I would love to be part of the committee, and I'm not asking to be the chair, but the committee should actually vote for who the chair is, and the committee should be comprised of people that through an organic process where it's on agenda, we just determine that this is the group. The way this is done, again, it's unilateral, improper. I know it's not procedural. I know if we go to OIP, they're going to say the same thing. You can't just pre-establish your committee. So it's problematic. And Anson, I don't know if you know enough yet. You've been there for a little while, but I think you should maybe speak up because I do think this is very problematic this evening.
Thank you. Ken?
He had a question, and I wanted, she's new, and I just want to give her a chance to speak her mind.
My question was that in the past, when there have been subcommittees, is the membership closed and determined at the time of the vote? Or is this an unusual circumstance that you're proposing?
My understanding is there hasn't been a committee for a very, very, very long time. Yeah, but the procedural way to do this is to make a motion, adopt the members. To Mr. Masakian's concerned, I didn't ask these people to support the measure. I asked if they would be willing if it passed. So there's no sunshine violation.
Sir.
Sarah?
So the procedural question I wish to ask, sir, was can we just vote tonight to have a committee and then at the next meeting vote for the chair? Like have people be able to say, you know, if they wish to be chair, like more of a, like how we just had the election. You kind of give a speech, you say why you would be good at it, and like what your strong points are, and then we take a vote. This is kind of just unilateral. You know, it's a great idea, well spoken. We definitely need it, but we need it to be collaborative. We need someone who's not going to be a little hostile automatically.
Yeah, and I mean, the other suggestion or thought that I had was whether we wanted to consider have sort of like putting a sunset on it, kind of like when we were debating whether to do these online meetings, and some people wanted to do them, some people didn't want to do them, and we said, well, let's do it. Let's do a trial period. I think we did 3 months for the hybrid meetings, and then we saw that they had value, so we kind of went with it. If there's some concern, so another option might be to support the committee, you know, with like a 3 to 6 month window, and then basically it's got to come back to get reapproved. I think that's something to consider. I actually think setting up the committee tonight might be something to do, but I agree with some of the others. I think there may be others who want to be on it. I think the membership should be a little more open rather than predetermined, and it might make more sense to wait until the next meeting before the actual membership is selected for the committee.
Ken.
I just want to speak to Daniel's credentials for serving as chair. Back when we lived in Missouri, when he was a deputy attorney general, he was in charge of professional registration, which included working with the police and trying to weed out bad police officers. And he had to go to trial oftentimes to get rid of bad police officers. And then later on, he was on the Police Advisory Commission for the city of Columbia for several years. So he's had a lot of experience dealing with the police and issues that they're facing, that the citizens are facing. So I don't know what everybody else's experience is, but I know what his experience is, and he's had substantial experience. Thank you.
Oh, I think Daniel would be a fine chair. I mean, I would support the committee and maybe making Daniel the chair tonight, and then fill in the rest of the members at the next meeting.
As we're quickly running out of time, Daniel, you made the motion. Would you go with waiting till the next meeting? No. Oh. Okay. Then in that case, since we are short on time, I'd like to take a vote on this.
Again, I'm going to raise a point of order, Chair, that I believe it's a violation of the Sunshine Law, the way this was done this evening. So I'm just raising that concern.
Thank you. And Daniel knows that I'm not really in favor of this. We discussed it. So.
Well, I guess to that point of order, I mean, what was this pre-discussed with other people, other board members, and is that a violation of the Sunshine Law? I mean, it's a separate issue. I think the committee is a decent idea, but I am curious. I mean, I know Daniel is very focused on the Sunshine Law, so I'm not inclined to believe that he violated it, but I am concerned and curious about what kinds of discussions did occur regarding.
Lou, we're running out of time. I'll tell you, the only thing I did was call the people who I've moved to be on the committee and ask whether they would be willing to serve. They said yes. That was the end of the discussion.
Okay, nobody else, no other board members were contacted.
Oh, in fact, there's only two other board members on this. The other two are public members, so lessens any concerns.
If you need clarification, we don't have time, but if I can clarify what my additional concern is with that, the way it was just brought up by Daniel, that he pre-established he would be the chair and these are the members, and just the way it was presented this evening.
Thank you.
I mean, Daniel, would you be okay if the committee was formed and you were named as the chair and the members were named later?
Lou, I would kind of like to raise a point of order because you keep talking. I'd like this vote to happen. This motion is before the body. You can't tell me I unilaterally I made the motion. If it's unilateral, then any board member who makes a motion has now acted unilaterally. The motion is before the board. The board can vote it up or down. I'm asking for your support. Thank you.
Can we amend the chair? Can we amend the motion to just appoint Daniel as the chair and leave the membership open to the next committee? Can I make that motion?
Since we're low, I want to call the question, see what the board feels. So is there a vote in favor, a motion in favor of calling the question? Yeah. I need somebody to second the motion to call the question.
Can we just take a vote? I think we can avoid all this by just agreeing we're going to take a vote on the motion. My motion.
Please say yes, no, or abstain.
What are we voting on, please?
Oh, the motion, oh, sorry.
Hello.
The motion to form what's it called? On the formation of a police relations standing committee with Daniel Jacobs as the chair, with members of Melissa, what were they? Melissa, I feel like, and
Julian Anderson,
Joanna Anderson,
Tim Gary,
and Tim Gary,
Jacob Winchek.
and Jacob Winchek. Okay. Okay, please say yes, no, or abstain. Anderson. Boyback. Oh wait, he's not here. Brown. Okay. Cabanero. Yep. Shotaro. Elsie? Sorry. Easily, sorry. Yep. Lewis?
I'll abstain.
Yep. Melissa? Okay. Finley? Hensky? Oh yeah, I forgot. Sorry. Daniel? Ken? Jeff? Greg? Howard? And Sarah. That's only 6 votes for yes. This does not pass.
Thank you, everybody. And that runs out of our time. I'm sorry. Our next meeting will be on July 9 at 6 p.m. Sorry, everybody, help us put away the tables and chairs.